All right, so today we're going to move on with the elevator pitch. That's one of our objectives in this class. I'm sure everyone knows what an elevator pitch is for the most part. Everyone's probably heard of an elevator pitch at some point in their time. Okay, so where I'm kind of going with this today, I'm just going to talk a little bit about just the elevator pitch, just in general, what it is, and then Wednesday I plan on getting into how to actually build or prepare for an elevator pitch, and then Friday hopefully a guest speaker, or we'll watch one of the entrepreneurial interviews on the Khan Academy, and then my thoughts are most likely Monday have people present the elevator pitches in class. We'll just use elevator pitch Monday as elevator pitch day. So that's how we'll do it. And for those of you who can't make it into class on the elevator pitch day, I think what I'm going to do is just have them call and leave the pitch on my voicemail in my office, because it should be able to be recorded, and the amount of time that it would take to call and leave the elevator pitch on my voicemail, which I would prefer, obviously, everyone be in class for the face-to-face interaction. But for people that are unable to do so, that are from a distance, then that's the next best thing, is to be able to leave a pitch. And I might try to think of if there's another technology for the people that are away, to where I can actually see their face if they can record it and get it to me. But for now, I think the easiest thing would just be the email, or I'm sorry, not email. Yeah, it'd be very nice. Just type it up right now, this voicemail thing. So I'll let everyone know later in the week in regards to how we'll get it delivered to me if we're not in class. So before we get started on the elevator pitch, what's y'all's thoughts on an elevator pitch? What really is an elevator pitch?
Just a persuasive message. It's short and concise, and tries to get your listener to buy your product or service.
Right.
Some main points to emphasize what you can do in like a few minutes.
Right. So just really just the main stuff you really want to portray to whoever your audience might be. Okay. So what is an elevator pitch? It's a short description of an idea, a product, or a company that explains the concept in a way that any listener can understand it in a short period of time. So obviously we know we're only given a very short amount of time, so we want to be concise and precise in what we say to them, as we are very limited in time. The description usually explains who the product or service is for, what it does, why it's needed, and how it'll get accomplished. Why do you think we want to touch on these four things right here within that short amount of time? And it's pretty really just self-explanatory, because that's the basics, what you want to get out. Like, so that's why you want to make sure you focus on, these four things here. Obviously, it can be used to describe an individual as opposed to a good or service. So you could be trying to sell a good or service, or you could be trying to sell yourself of something that you're particularly good at. When describing an individual as opposed to the good or service, you should highlight your individual skills, your individual goals, and how that individual could better help out a company or a project that they're on. So you just really want to highlight what you can bring to the table, pretty much, if you're selling yourself as opposed to your good or service, which ultimately we know in an elevator pitch you're ultimately selling yourself anyways, because the key to sales, whether you're selling a good or a service, or because if you're selling yourself, most likely you're selling a service. So if you can sell yourself, a lot of times the product or the service will sell itself on its own, just because you did a good job portraying yourself to the people. Okay, an elevator pitch doesn't have to include all the elements or the components that we mentioned before. So obviously you can tailor it to whoever your audience is that you're trying to get your idea across to. But the elevator pitch must include enough information to explain the idea, the product, the company or the person, and the value that can be derived from the product. So how do you think we could go about really making that possible, to be able to explain all these these things within a short amount of time. Just like you said, just keep it short and concise, pretty much short and sweet, and just right to the point, right? So I know this is really it's really kind of a simple lesson here. I know I just have to cover it because it's an objective. I mean, at a 400 level class, I almost feel like, it's, I don't know, my sense, it's almost not a waste of time because I feel like everyone knows what it is, but I still think it's very important, to cover it, as, you never know who you're going to run into, and you only have a short amount of time. So that's why I really still want to cover it. And obviously it is an objective, so have to cover it. But so just bear with me as we move through this. Okay, when do we use an elevator pitch? Maybe we want to entice an executive or an owner of a company. Maybe they're selling a good or a service that we think that maybe ours is better. So maybe we're going to make a pitch at an executive of a large company or a small company. It doesn't really matter which size. To entice a potential investor or creditor. So if we have a good or a service that we think would be a big hit, but we don't have the capital or the financial means to be able to bring it to market, then we could use that to try to pitch it to someone who does have the money or can, give us the money that we would need to be able to make it a reality. Or if we're just in like a networking situation, if we're like the event we just had on the E2E thing, or if you're just at a job interview, or just, you have your meet the firms or whatever it might be. I'm sure, do y'all do something like that here where the college will bring in firms and stuff like that to interview?
It's a business fair.
Okay, so like business fairs. So like just in environments like that, it's good to use as an icebreaker. Like, how it can be if you're presenting a potential employer, or just talking to these companies. A lot of times it can be a little intimidating where you don't really know what to say or how to present yourself. So really just to have a quick little pitch that, in your pocket, or, your little repertoire of stuff to use, then, it always helps to have that, as it could be a good way to break the ice and get conversation flowing, and to really let them know that you're confident in who you are and know what you're about, really. So the goal is really to convey the concept or an idea in an exciting way. So in this case, it's a little different because, we just went over the sales plan, obviously, last week. So there's a direct relationship between, when you're presenting a sales plan, there's going to be a buyer and a seller for the most part. So there's that relationship that's already established. So it's a little, you know exactly what you're presenting for the most part. You know why you're there, with hopes of getting them to buy it. Well, with an elevator pitch, you still know what the hopes and what you're trying to achieve with the conversation, but the relationship could be different. So you have to know how to go about it a little different, because they're not solely just trying to sell something or them just buy something. So you want to be able to just tailor it a little more, knowing that there could be different relationships involved as opposed to a sales plan or sales pitch. Skip one. Okay, the aspects of an elevator pitch. It can obviously vary in length, usually around 30 seconds to a couple minutes. Obviously, it's got its name from the duration of an elevator ride. So the idea is to be able to pitch this idea as if you get stuck in an elevator with somebody who is an influential figure or something, and just be able to pitch them your idea before they get off the elevator, really. So that's where it got its name. Obviously, the main focus is to be short and direct. You don't want to water it down with a bunch of nonsense. Just get right to the point, because obviously time is of the essence. So, the first two sentences are going to be the most important and should catch their attention. Why do you think the first two sentences would be the most important? Because it's already just such a short amount of time you have anyways, but why would the first two sentences be the most important out of the entire pitch?
Because they're not going to keep listening if they don't like
Right.
from the beginning.
Right, because if they're not interested from the beginning, they're just going to say, yeah, whatever, man. You just keep on rambling on, whatever you're talking about. And think of in terms of interviews as well. What do they usually say when you go in for an interview?
First impression.
They
You
usually
have 7 seconds to make a good first impression.
Right. A lot of times they know if they're going to hire you. A lot of times within the first 5-10 seconds of the interview, but just from your demeanor of how you walked in and carried yourself and shake their hand, eyesight, whatever, eye contact, whatever it could be. So it's just as important on pitching your idea, because really, like we said, you're just selling yourself. It's no different when you go in an interview. What do you want to portray when you walk into an interview?
Confidence,
Yep. Confidence. What else?
knowledge.
Yep. You want to be energetic. You want to be interested. You want to show that you listen. You listen. Know when to take control of the conversation. So pretty much it all goes back to being confident and just know how to carry yourself. So how you start something is really, really important. Obviously, how you finish is important too. A lot of times you hear the thing, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Well, a lot of times it's how you start as well. It's just as important as how you finish. And in this case, it's almost more so important. Now, obviously, with that being said, you don't want to just kill them in the first two sentences and like, man, this guy's really killing her, this lady's really killing this presentation, and then just completely just drop the ball, because obviously they're going to catch that as well. So the whole point here is just know what you're talking about, be confident, and really just come off hard up top, just come off strong and be confident. Information should be condensed to express the most important ideas or concepts. So like I said before, just don't water down your idea, so that way they know what you're trying to portray, or the idea you're trying to get across. Obviously, you should use simple language when delivering it. Stay away from sophisticated language and statistics, because it could interrupt the attention of the audience. Because a lot of times, you know how it is when you get in some conversations, whether it be, I don't know, let's use accounting, for example. A lot of times when you start talking about accounting, when you stay on the actual qualitative side of it, when you're just going over the actual theory and stuff, it doesn't seem as bad, but once you start getting into some of the quantitative side of it and some of the actual application of it, it can get confusing pretty quick. So that's a good example of why you want to just stick with more of the qualitative stuff and the simple stuff, as opposed to really getting into the specifics and the quantitative side of things, because you can tend to lose people quick. And if they get confused, they're going to get frustrated, and then ultimately they're going to stop paying attention to you. So just try to keep it simple on the pitch. You can always dive into the more pervasive details once you get them hooked on that line and got their attention. Should be modified for the audience who is listening. So what do we mean by that? So obviously we're selling. Obviously, if we have this elevator pitch, it's going to be the same thing we're trying to pitch to different people. But why? What do we mean by just tailoring it to the actual audience who is listening?
Different people, they have different knowledge, so we need to adapt.
Right, different knowledge. And a lot of people, might have different ways of understanding. Like she said, different knowledge. They might have, different things they derive value from. So how can you explain how it's going to benefit them? Because one product or service that it might benefit someone completely different than it benefits another person. So just being able to know who your audience is, whether it's how old they are, or what their age, or what their income might be, or just stuff of that sort, so you know what to tailor it to them. Because if you sell a number of goods or services, if some are more expensive than others, then obviously you don't want to throw those expensive ones at someone who isn't going to be able to ultimately afford whatever you're selling. So just know who you're talking to pretty much, and just be able to change or tailor yourself to suit their needs. And obviously, the elevator pitch should be refined as you or your business continues to mature. And what do I mean by mature here? Business maturing.
As it grows, as it stays in business for longer and longer time.
Right. So as it continues to grow and become more profitable, obviously, a lot of times tend to outgrow your clothes or your shoes or whatever it might be. So ultimately, they're not going to know it's not going to work anymore for you. So you have to, scale it up to meet the needs of the level that your company's grown to be. So just keep in mind that it should be refined as your business matures. All right, when delivering an elevator pitch, individuals should be flexible, adaptable, genuine, and fluent. So, what's some ways that someone could be flexible in delivering an elevator pitch?
I'd say that probably goes back to tailoring it to your audience, because different audience members are going to have different questions. So you got to be able to be flexible towards those other questions and not make it sound scripted.
Right, because people are going to come at you with different questions, like you said, because everyone hears things different than other people. So everyone has their own sense of interpreting information and breaking it down. So obviously, what the questions you asked are going to be different coming at you, and obviously being adaptable just plays hand in hand with being flexible. I mean that they just coincide with one another. So in order to be flexible, you have to be able to be adaptable as well, to be able to adapt to whatever environment you're in or whatever congregation you're talking to. Be genuine and fluent. So how can we do that when making an elevator pitch?
As far as genuine goes, I mean, just skip the BS. Just go straight at what what you're confident in, and don't try to make the product or service something it's not.
Right. So just be honest. Like we were talking about in the sales plan. If you're gonna tell them that a product is being discontinued or being marked up, make sure that it actually is. So just be honest, be genuine when pitching your elevator pitch. Don't try to, like you said, don't sell them a crock of crap or a bunch of BS. Just be genuine with them. And fluent. So we don't want it to make it sound like we're standing here just reading a script to you, because they're going to be like, man, they don't even know what they're selling. If it wasn't for that piece of paper, they'd be lost. So why do I want to buy from you all? So you want to make it sound like you're knowledgeable and confident. So it all comes back to being confident and knowledgeable, and make it sound as genuine and fluent, obviously, as you can. So you want to make it sound like we're just having a normal conversation back and forth. You don't want to just bore them with just reading straight off the script. So some of the advantages of an elevator pitch: the convenience and simplicity. It can be given on short notice. It doesn't require much planning. And this is due to because the pre-planning of the content, usually if you're creating an elevator pitch, then you know what you're creating it for. So all the pre-planning has already been done. You should know your good or service or yourself well enough to create an elevator pitch if your goal is to try to be selling your ideas. So really, you should be able to come up with it fairly quick if you have to. It permits the individual that's given the pitch the ability to simplify the content and deliver it in a less complicated manner. So obviously, right back to the same thing, it's just getting to the point. So just cut the BS out. So just a little bit of background information and history on it. I know this isn't really all that important, but just to kind of get an idea of where it came from. Some stuff that I found was Aline Rosenweig, I guess that's how it's pronounced, and Michael Caruso. They were two formal journalists in the 90s. And according to Rosenweig, Caruso, I guess they worked hand in hand with one another. She was a senior editor at Vanity Fair, and she was always attempting to pitch her story to like the editor-in-chief at the company, but the editor-in-chief was always just really busy and on the move. So pretty much Caruso just tried to find a time when the lady was on her free time, the editor-in-chief was in her free time, and the only time that she could really get a chance to really find when she had that time was she caught her in an elevator, and that's where she made the pitch to her, was on the elevator. So according to Rosenweig, that's when the concept of the elevator pitch was created. So, but this was in the 90s. But then dating back to before that, Philip Crosby, which that name does sound familiar. I don't know why it does to me. I've never read either one of these books here, but it still sounds familiar. But anyways, he was the author of The Art of Getting Your Own Sweet Way from 1972, and The Quality is Still Free from 1996. And Crosby suggested that individuals should have a pre-prepared speech that can deliver information regarding themselves or quality that they can provide within a short period of time, namely the amount of time of an elevator ride for if an individual finds themselves on an elevator with a prominent figure. So that was his thought process there. Well, then two statisticians, Gary Hahn of General Electric and Tom Boardman, which was a professor at the University of Colorado, they pushed the concept on to other statisticians to help them promote what they have to offer to other people. And Boardman pushed the concept farther than Hahn, ultimately resulting in the elevator pitch being linked to Boardman in his professional life. So there's just a little bit of some BS history of the elevator pitch here. So that's just a little FYI in case anyone was curious of it. And that's really all I have for today as far as getting into the actual elevator pitch itself, what it is. I mean, I really don't know how much more I can go on as far as explaining what it is, because it is a fairly simple concept. And Wednesday, like I said, I'm going to have another short little thing prepared on just how to prepare for an elevator speech, to give a little insight on maybe a little format that could be followed to have it or to prepare it. And then, like I said, Friday we'll have either a guest speaker or that thing. Everyone cool? Everyone think Monday after we do this, and then go over just the how-to, a little framework on Wednesday. Does everyone think that Monday is enough time to be able to prepare your elevator speech, and then we'll give those on Monday?
Yeah. Question.
Mhm.
Are we doing it as a team, or are we doing each
Individual, right?
So
And even though because obviously I want you all to base it upon your feasibility plan, but so you can obviously use your products you're familiar with, but I still want each individual to do it. Now, whether there's some parallels and you're all saying that's fine, I understand it can't be totally, tailored or customized if you're doing the same product, obviously, but just enough to where I know you did it just write one and then just say, hey, say this when you go in there. Don't worry about doing it. Just use mine. So obviously my whole goal of having the elevator pitch was to do it based upon a product you're already familiar with, which is obviously what you do your feasibility plan on. So and that's a good point. I'm glad you said that. So those of you who have worked in groups, don't worry about it. Do your elevator pitch based upon your feasibility plan, whatever that product or service was, because that way it should be, just easy to come up with. My whole point of it is not to make you all have to become familiar with something else in order to create this. It's just to be able to understand how to, use the knowledge you already have and just come up with something quick. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah, good question there. And don't worry about it. Even if they do end up signing a lot alike. I mean, obviously it's fine. And a lot of it is just being able to really present it in public, being able to just draw up your speech and present it, and just trying to speak clearly and confident in a public environment or face-to-face interactions. So, is that fair? Now, you can, if you choose, if you don't want to do the elevator pitch based upon your feasibility plan, or if it's something else that you have more of a passion for just in general, then you feel free to do that. I'm not saying you have to do it on that. I just think it'd be easier because you've already spent a lot of time, in researching and are a little more, acquainted or familiar with that good or service. So that's what I would suggest. But feel free to do it on whatever you want to. Really, it's just and have fun with it. That's the whole point of it. Really, have fun and just get a little practice speaking in public. Really. And just that way you've done it before. So if you go to this job fair or interviews, whatever it might be, you have a little experience. So that's it. Any other questions? Everyone good? Everyone sitting back wondering, why are we doing an elevator pitch in a 400 level class? It's because it's one of the objectives. That's why. It'll be fun. It'll give me a break to
I'm glad Alex asked that question because I assumed you would do it as a group.
Right. No, I definitely would rather people do it individually that way. Because here's the problem: if we do it as a group, then chances are one person's going to do the talking, most likely,
Or the hard to sync up.
right. I mean, and it's such a short pitch. It really can't really do it as a group. Now, there will probably be another thing we present in here, like something small, maybe like an executive summary or a sales plan or something. And in that regards, I don't care if it's as a group, if it's a little bit longer of a presentation. But for a 30-second to a 2-minute presentation, we should be able to do it.
We have to like heavily scripted to where I say half the words.
Right. It'd almost be harder, more difficult to share it.
To do it individual.
I think it'd be more difficult to do it as a group because, I mean, really, it's so short. You'd almost be fighting over who says what, So everyone cool with where we're at, where we're going, everything's going. Okay. Well, that is all I have for today. Sorry, our lessons have been a little shorter. I mean, I know if I was in the receiving end, I would not be complaining at all. So I apologize. If it's a problem, just let me know, and I'll try to extend the class out a little bit. But, okay, just making sure we're all on the same page here. So I appreciate your all's time, and I will see everybody on Wednesday.